Good morning. Hi, everybody. This is Laura McConnell. I'm co-chair of the IUPAC100 committee, and I'm so happy to welcome you this morning on the Global Women's Breakfast. And this morning we're having a special webinar from Dr. Raychelle Burks, and she's going to talk to us about social media strategies to broaden your network.
Good morning.
Yes, welcome. So glad to have you, Raychelle, and thank you so much for taking time to do this. We're very excited to have you.
Me too.
Great. And so, Raychelle, I guess you know that we have two very exciting global celebrations happening this year. All during the same year, we have the IUPAC100 celebration, which is the 100th anniversary of IUPAC. And we have the International Year of the Periodic Table, which is also extremely exciting. Everybody who loves the periodic table is out there doing flash mob periodic tables and coming out with new apps about the periodic table, and it's really so exciting. And so one of the very special events that we have planned for IUPAC 100 is today. It's happening today. I can't believe it's finally here. It's the Global Women's Breakfast. And so this is why we've invited you, Raychelle, to give this special webinar. And you can see from this slide that this has inspired a lot of creativity around the world. These are flyers that different breakfast groups have created on their own, expressing their excitement about this event. And so each breakfast event is individually planned and organized by women leaders, and they have different speakers, and they have different programs reflecting their own culture and interests. And so this is very exciting for everyone. But the good part is it's all happening on the same day. The different groups are communicating with each other, and it's going to be an exciting day. So I just want to show you the map of all of the locations for the Global Breakfast. Raychelle, you can see we have lots of dots all around the world, everywhere. And so what's going to happen today is that in New Zealand, they always have breakfast first because that's how the time zones work. And this is something that I had to figure out. And so New Zealand gets to have breakfast first and start us out. And then as time goes on during February 12th, we will have a global hand wave of events going on around the world, and we're going to have our final event in Hawaii. And so that will be very exciting. As each breakfast starts, they'll either tweet us or send us an email to let us know, and we're going to change the dot for their location into a little red heart. And so by the end of the day, hopefully we'll see lots of love and hearts all over the world on the map. So I'm very excited, and thank you, Raychelle, for being with us today and helping us to celebrate.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, so let's see. I just wanted to let everybody know a little bit about you. And so you're an analytical chemist, right, at St. Edward's University, is that right?
I am. That's right.
Yeah, and you've been there how long?
I'm in my third year, so about 2.5 years.
Excellent. And so can you just give us a little sketch about your research group?
Sure. I am, besides being an analytical chemist, I'm also a forensic chemist, and I focus mainly on designing detection systems for weapons, chemical, biological, as well as illegal drugs and explosives. And so we design detection methods, mainly like color sensors, as well as fluorescence devices to actually detect these substances.
Wow. That sounds really interesting. I'm sure people will want to look up some of your papers and read more about your research group after this this webinar. And one of the cool things about you is that you are really into science communication, which is something that we at IUPAC are also very passionate about, and that's why we love having you part of IUPAC's community. And so maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you got into the science communication area.
Sure. So back in graduate school, had an opportunity to take a science writing class, which really learned a lot, but it also gave me an opportunity to write for local paper and to start blogging online and doing some science writing work for campus. And then I also did a science writing internship for Chemical and Engineering News, which is the magazine of the American Chemical Society. And then it, from there, just kind of moved on to other assignments and opportunities and public speaking. And then back in about 2013, I started doing videos for ACS Reactions and podcasts for Chemistry World. And then back in 2017, I started writing a column, forensic science column for Chemistry World. That's the magazine of the Royal Society of Chemistry, called Trace Analysis. And I do a lot of social media work. You can find me on Twitter at Dr. Rubidium. And just this last year, I co-authored Chemists to Twitter to kind of talk about how chemists can use social media. And I do a lot of social media workshops for the American Chemical Society and other professional organizations.
Awesome. And people can note that I have included your Chemist to Twitter book chapter as a handout for this webinar that they can download too. Great. So I think I'm going to let you take it from here and really tell us more about how to use social media and give us the benefit of your experience.
Great, thank you. I know that a lot of people that are in the breakfast today and watching around the world are probably already on social media. A lot of us have grown up kind of either in the era of social media, or it has dominated about half of our lives. If we think about MySpace and Facebook, and in some ways email and YouTube, these are all kind of avenues to communicate, and listservs, and we've gotten all types of new ones, Instagram and Snapchat. I mean, there's a platform for everything. And then there's also unique platforms that are worldwide that I'm sure that our members and participants today are actively using. So I just want to touch on, kind of some motivations on maybe why to also, if you're not already, if you're kind of thinking social media is how I stay, connected with family and friends, which is of course enormously valuable, but it's also a great way to engage with other scientists and to kind of spread your love of science and engage in that medium with people that maybe aren't scientists or just not aware of what you're doing with your science in your community. And the reason why I love social media is, for some of the questions that are here that we'll go into. So one of the questions is kind of, why would it be important for women scientists to engage with social media? And I'll give you my thoughts on that. And then there are so many platforms. I've already named off a few. You got Facebook, you got Twitter, you got Insta, Snapchat, and those are just, kind of the big ones and that are kind of more dominant in the north, the global north. But there are tons worldwide. And so we kind of will talk about that. But also, what are some of the challenges? We need to be honest about, what's going on there and what are some challenges, but also with challenges, there are benefits to social media. And then just along the way, a few best practices, and I think a really good resource for that. So one of my favorite quotes about social media is actually from the World Health Organization that I wholeheartedly agree with. We are in an era where Wi-Fi enabled mobile devices are really everywhere. And it is a great, as WHO would say, it is the great information equalizer. You can be instant and borderless. And when they talk about it in their use for healthcare professionals, what I love is this quote that says that social media is an opportunity for health professionals to explore, to listen, and to engage. And I think those last couple words are really key, to listen and engage. And I think it's really easy that we could just take out the word health professionals and plug in the word chemists, because we need a more equitable communication strategy. The reason why, and this gets back to the first question of why we need to hear from women scientists, is because science, like every other aspect of our society, has been dominated for too long by majority voices and not from the historically marginalized. It's important that we hear from everyone, and that you know that your opportunities and your experiences and your work and your science is valuable. It absolutely is, and everybody should know about it, what you're doing in your community and what your community concerns are in the realm of science. Social media allows you to communicate, to control your narrative, and to do that in, again, this kind of borderless, instant way, which I think is really exciting. And it's also just useful if you're trying to kind of present, what your experiences are and your expertise, but also the expertise perhaps of your field and, again, of your community. So I think those things are kind of our noblest intentions when it comes to the use of social media. But when we talk about things a little bit more practically, again, there are a lot of platforms. And if you're not already on social media, or maybe even if you are, you might be a little overwhelmed between the Snapchat, the Facebook, the LinkedIn, the Twitter, the Instagram, the YouTube. And again, this is just scratching the surface. There are lots of others. I want to say, if you learn nothing else from what I say today, is that you absolutely do not have to be on all of them. You can just pick the one that you're the most comfortable with, whether that's because you've been using it for a long time or because you just think it's the best representation of your work. So comfort and ease of use is absolutely a legitimate reason to pick a certain platform, as well as what do you want to say? Maybe you just want to post fun photos. And so for that, and that's also a very valuable professional service, Instagram might be really the way to go. And one great example of that is actually Chemical and Engineering News, which started a hashtag called Fluorescence Friday. And you've got a lot of professional chemists worldwide that share some super cool photos that have been picked up by all kinds of media outlets because they're pretty. And people love pretty images. But as we know, they're often showing important, scientific processes, and they're showing key work. And so I know a lot of field biologists and people doing really cool field work, but also chemists that are doing, building cool instruments that really can tell about their work, whether it's in the lab or computation, or maybe they've got a cool outreach program, that posting a great image really does speak 1,000 words. And more importantly, you don't have to write those 1,000 words. You can just put up a great image. So that might be the platform you go with. So kind of think about what you want to communicate and what absolutely would be the easiest way for you to do that. Do you want to just post a couple fun photos? Do you want to actually maybe engage in a kind of a live kind of chat format that's kind of Twitter? And you can mix and match. And again, find something that works for you that you think will best represent kind of what you want to get out there to the world. And don't forget, remember, LinkedIn is a social media platform. So that's also a great professional networking site. So that might be the one that's the best for you, depending on what your goals are. So again, what are your goals? And then what's the easiest way for you to achieve them using one of these platforms? Go with that platform. And so I always say go with what's easy in the lab with my students, and of course in social media. And here's a great resource for you that I want to point out. This was a great book that was edited by Clarissa Sorensen-Aru and Tanya Gupta, and it's got lots of great authors. Of course, it has me as chapter 2, but there are some great chemists that have written really informative chapters. So if you're thinking about how do I get started, but also if you're already on social media and maybe you want to do a social media makeover and just think about some other things or take your kind of strategies into a different direction, you can absolutely get this resource. Because I want to point out to you that it's not just about networking and kind of meeting scientists, which is valuable and important. I think building community and maintaining community is a valuable first priority, but it's also about using social media to meet your goals professionally. So you'll see some of the chapters in here about You can use it in the classroom. There has been some absolutely fantastic work using social media to teach folks how to write better technical writing, to do better technical writing, but also using it as a classroom tool to kind of communicate science and visualize science. I myself use smartphones quite a bit. I teach instrumental classes. I always have my students build a spectrophotometer using a smartphone. This semester, we're also developing a colorimetric technique using smartphones in the lab. So there's tons of great case studies out there about, getting on social media, engaging with it for totally, appropriate professional and educational resources. And if you don't know where to start, this is really a great book written by your fellow chemists. Many of the authors are women, and so there's just a great way to support women communicating chemistry through social media. On that note, you might be thinking, yes, this all sounds fantastic, but what's the downside, or what are some challenges? Well, I want to point out a couple chapters, one in which is written by myself and my great co-authors, including Dr. Stephanie Page, who is the creator of the hashtag Black in STEM, as well as this other one that talks about no crying, no falling in love, the digital identity of female chemists on Twitter. And these two chapters really go into what are some of the challenges. I mean, what if you say the wrong thing? So the chapter that I wrote talks about, hey, how to deal with that, and how to think about your communication, how we can all be more thoughtful and more gracious. But also the reality that to be an educated, competent woman in and of itself can sometimes bring, and not really sometimes, but a lot of times can bring, quote, trolling. And how are some strategies to deal with that? And one of the strategies is because social media can cultivate this strong support network, you're not alone. And I think that that's another reason why I love social media, is that for all of its challenges, it has a lot of benefits. I have connected with chemists that I would never have met at professional meetings, that they're on every corner of the globe, but we have interacted online, and then we've Skyped, and we've Facebooked, and we LinkedIn, and we tweet, and we're sharing tips about research and teaching, but just supporting each other in this global endeavor of being a professional woman in the sciences. And so I want to encourage you that if you're on social media already, think about, how can I make even new goals, better goals, especially for this year when we've got so much great programming happening. And if you're not on social media, maybe consider joining us on social media. I absolutely want to hear what you have to say. I always learn so much from my fellow chemists on social media. So I look forward to interacting with you. And I hope if you're on Twitter that you'll wave at me at Dr. Rubidium. Thank you.
Great. Wow. Thank you, Raychelle. That was really inspiring. And I bet you will get quite a number of tweets today on this Global Women's Breakfast Day. I think there's been a lot of people that have registered for breakfast that maybe had not been on Twitter before that are now going to be tweeting up a storm. So I think you'll see a lot more activity from those women chemists. And so maybe if you could go to the next slide. I want to share with you one thing that people may want to watch out for today, and that is a special symposium, very relevant for today. It's called Setting Their Table, Women and the Periodic Table of Elements. And this is a special symposium that's happening in Murcia, Spain. And if you go to the website that's listed there, you can see the very nice program that's going on on the 11th and 12th, and they also are going to be live streaming their global breakfast that's happening in Spain, in Murcia, and it'll also be shown on our website, our global breakfast page. So check that out today as well if you have time. And so I also want to show you an inspiring photo. It's on the next slide. And this is a historical photo from the Sorbonne in Paris at a previous IUPAC General Assembly. And you can see from this photo that I've circled a woman that's in the front row, and it appears to be, it's hard to tell for sure, but one of the very few women present at this event back in 1957. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a picture from 100 years ago, but this one's a few years back. And so we hope that at this next General Assembly that we're going to have in Paris this year, in 2019, that we'll see many, many, many more women in that audience. And we're looking forward to seeing everyone there. Hopefully they can join us for this 100th anniversary celebration in Paris. So I hope you'll be there, Raychelle. I don't know if you're planning to attend or not, but
I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I definitely will be there, and I want to see all of you there and joining us in Paris for this event. So thank you all for joining today for this special webinar, and thank you, Raychelle, so much for joining us again. And I think I learned a lot from your webinar, and I definitely am going to look at what I'm doing on social media, see if I can improve my engagement level with my fellow scientists. So thanks again.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon, and have a wonderful breakfast today.
Bye.
Thanks again. Bye.